I believe that food is the conduit to love and to show people that we really deeply care about them and their success, and that every time we do the opposite, it is the opposite. It's disrespecting people. When you live that, even if it's briefly, it affects you forever. Because when you are in that, it's the loneliest place in the world, but also you feel like everybody thinks you're garbage. I want to be that person that's there for somebody else when this comes into that place. And I want to build an entire structure that's ready to help people. When I was looking at traditional meal programs that were being served by government and by other folks all across North America, I was nothing short of disgusted. It was really upsetting because the metric of success is how many people you can feed, not how many people you can feed well. Somebody says, hey, can I have some money because I'm hungry? Which happens all day, every day in every city that we know of. Most people ignore them, most people won't talk to them. So instead of pretending that that's not a thing, that people don't ignore and they don't give money, I just asked everybody why they don't give money. And they said, I don't give money because I don't trust people with it that I think they'll use for drugs or alcohol. Now that bias sucks, but it's real. So we have to address it as real. Just says sandwich. It's only redeemable for a sandwich. You can't trade it for cash. It's not worth any drugs. What I was most excited about is that you would hand it to somebody. So yes, I'm excited that you're gonna get a sandwich. Great. You're hungry, you have a place of inclusion you can go to. That's really cool. I'm way more excited that you're going to talk to somebody who's feeling super isolated and street entrenched. When I had done my second bout where I was unhoused, I was living with my best friend at the time in East Vancouver, I fell to addiction to drugs and alcohol. And in that time, I used to go to a place called Save on Meats that had been there since 1957. And I'd sit at the counter and I'd eat a burger for like $3.50 and I'd get really full. But I ate there because I didn't have a lot of resource. And I also felt a lot of judgment at the time, as you do when you're battling with addiction. And in that space were cops, cons, everybody in between. And it was one of those rare places where that occurs in this day and age. We employ people that have physical disabilities, mental disabilities, traditional other barriers, and that being a rap sheet. Somebody's made bad decisions in their life, I've made a bunch of them, and I've worked my way out of them. We don't look at any of that as a hindrance, we look at it as a diverse ability or something that you could actually bring to the job that's more important. Homelessness is a symptom. Poverty is what I care about. We have more than enough resources, times 100, to fix all of these things. They're just going to the wrong places. We just have to be smarter. We just have to.
What do you do after you're moved so emotionally for 48 hours? What do you do? You throw away the talk you were going to do completely, and you start again. And you stay up all night, and you ask your students, and you ask your people, and you go real deep, and you start again. So I started again. So this is literally just for you. Last year, after I finished on this stage, I went to do a talk in a place called Kelowna, British Columbia, which is a place of affluence. It's where people have power boats and they have jet skis and they're predominantly white and very affluent. And I was walking to grab some dinner and I ran into this gentleman in the street with a shopping cart. And as I often do, I stopped to have a conversation. I said, "How you doing?" He was like, "I'm doing great. How are you?" I was like, "I'm not great." He said, "Why not?" And I said, "Because every time I think I take a step forward, I literally feel like somebody kicks me in the sternum like I'm in a Sparta movie, and I go back." And this man who'd been living in street entrenchment for 13 years showed me this sign. He said, "It doesn't get easier, you just get stronger." And the insanity of that moment for me, this guy's living in the street, I'm in my posh-ass hotel, getting ready to do a keynote to a bunch of people, and he's helping me. But why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't we just help each other all the time? This word means a lot to me. And because of the work that I do and the people that I work with, I see this in action. It takes a lot of courage to break through false narrative. Whatever that narrative is in you that says, I am not enough. I cannot. It takes this. This kid had all kinds of it. This was a precursor for the tattoo phase that I would get into 15 years later. That's my mom behind me. Her name's also right here. It's also the name of my first restaurant. She taught me about courage. My mom was unhoused for the first time when she was 12. Her father had died. Her mother had had a psychotic break, and she went from family member to family member. She got her first job at 14. And my dad had a similar story. Now, I was able to trace my mother's lineage really tightly and understand where she came from. But my dad, I had some blank moments. Now, my story started being born in Scotland. I lived in Tunisia. I lived in London, England. I lived in Calgary. I moved to Nova Scotia, where this picture was taken. I'd lived all over the place. But I'd gone to Vancouver a couple of times and had this super resonant feeling in my body that it was my place. And I didn't know what to do with that. Often we don't. The courage to stand for others is a courage that my family taught me. My father, my grandfathers, both of them, my mom, everybody in that circle was either stoically courageous or really obnoxiously courageous. Both traits I carry. That kid with the tattoos believes in courage, believes in second chance, believes in resilience so deeply that it's taken me literally everywhere. After I left this talk last year, I got to be this guy. This is my superhero costume. I get to put on a white coat and talk to people about things that matter. This occurred at Vatican City. I cooked for 400 people who care deeply about climate change. And instead of taking my time, which was 2 minutes and 4 seconds, I think, they're pretty specific around there, I talked about the importance of poverty and people who need a second chance. And it landed, and I was proud, but it comes from here. It's my grandfather and my grandmother in Edmonton, Alberta, where I was certain I was from as well. They're part of the West Edmonton saga, a big long story. They were farmers, they were poor, and they were amazing. My grandfather passed away a lot of years ago, and the family home needed to be visited and tidied up. And my dad said, I would like you to come with me and do this. It's really important. I'm his only son, and I went. As my grandfather was passing, he had Alzheimer's, then pretty severe dementia, and I asked him about family, and he wouldn't talk about it. And I knew he'd been an orphan, and I knew he'd been abused, and that's as far as we got. But I found a suitcase. And in that suitcase were hundreds of letters. It was locked. We had to open it. That's my grandfather's name. And if you look at the top of it, the stamp is from somewhere that was always really resonant to me. From 1932, Vancouver, British Columbia. Came from the correspondence of the corrections facility. It was a letter from my great-grandfather to his son. And there's dozens of these letters saying, we'll be together, we'll be reunited. What has happened to me is an injustice. Turns out, my great-grandfather was the first abortion doctor in the downtown east side of Vancouver, where I do the work we just watched. And nobody knew. Or nobody shared with me. He also suffered deeply from mental illness, and this is correspondence that goes back and forth between the institution he was in to my grandfather, who never shared. Everything that I felt resonant in my body in that neighborhood, and I continue to do, is because we were in the same place. I was walking through the exact same steps that he walked, doing similar but very different work. And so close that it's almost crazy. That red dot you see, that's where our business is. That route you see that's a 7-minute drive is where he lived and worked. My whole life I didn't know this, but I could feel it in my body that something was really important for me there. And when something like that happens, we have to listen. So people would ask me in interviews, why do you do this work? It's insane. I'm like, because it's the right thing to do, which is also true, but because something was echoing inside of me. It's in our DNA. We come from something. And that something was that man. Save On Meats was an opportunity for me. It was my 10th business. And it was an opportunity to do the right thing in every step, every day. How do we build real community? Well, we're in one now. Congratulations to those of you who are new. This is your community now. We're your community. This is one of mine. In the diner, we do a lot of things. We're a place of inclusion. Does everybody understand that? The truest form of a place of inclusion. Doesn't matter what you are as long as you're not super intoxicated or aggressive. It is your place. If you live in an SRO, a single room occupancy hotel, you don't have anywhere to go. It's an 8x10. It's a cell outside of jail. And places are disappearing. So we created a really big place where people could hang out. The gentleman in the center was homeless for 7 years. He's now an outreach worker in the middle of the opioid crisis, averaging 2 or 3 revivals a day because of people dying in our streets. The gentleman on the far left was employee 1, is recently retired, and is a big part of my story. We get together every once in a while. And Justin in the center sent me an email. We created this thing called Plenty of Plates. People were bugging me so much about wanting to come and cook for people, and my narrative for a decade had been, you don't know how to cook, do something else. They didn't let up, so we thought, maybe we'll build something. And we built in our commissary kitchen the ability for a group of 20 people to come in, learn how to cook a gigantic meal, and then serve our neighborhood in a way that was a little different. There's no lineups, there's no styrofoam cups. There was menus and table settings and service. And those same people that cooked would do that service. And then they'd do the damn dishes and leave it cleaner than they found it. There's rules to this stuff. Isolation is the single biggest cause of addiction and instability. We are constantly connected to nothing. If you ever thought about those stances you're in your body, this isn't something. This is nothing. This is something. This is something. This is really something, Saul. You and me later, dance floor. So what we try to do is this is the same as that map we just looked at. It's a device to get me somewhere so I can do this and this. So Justin sends me an email. I've been doing this work for almost 10 years. I've been through Brownsville. I spent time in Skid Row. Name the neighborhood that has deep street entrenchment. I've spent time in it and around it trying to understand it better. This is not something I understood. It's an email from Justin, and it reads, "Hey, Mark. I just wanted to say thank you to your team for being absolutely amazing and supportive of the community. I'm working on looking at what it means to honor relationships for those in the community. Relationships are not honored, especially in our homeless population. I remember where Una, his wife, and I started our relationship and never had a date for the first 4 years because they were both living street entrenched. So where I'm going with this is I have 3 couples coming to Plenty of Plates tonight, and this is a game changer for these people being honored in their relationship. So thank you so much for building the capacity and making the space in the community. If I did nothing else in my life but this and this, I'd be good. Why would we not think that people who live in the street don't have boyfriends and girlfriends? Where are you going to go for a date? Now we are the date central. unintended consequence. We created this thing. We've done 45 straight sellouts. Every single month, I bring a chef into the hood, and they cook a 4-course meal for us and everybody else. This year, we pivoted and we focused on chefs that happen to be female. That'll become clear in a second. These slides I thought were important because I'm a chef and I want you to know I can cook. This is a BLT, deconstructed. Bon Appetit magazine, where you at? This is a Reuben Benny. Those are quail's eggs. I get people to help me with the dinners, and some poor sucker had to boil, semi-boil, runny yolk, 6 minutes, 600 quail eggs, and peel them. So if anybody wants to volunteer with me, know what you're up for. And I want you guys to see a little bit of what we do, because I did this diner based out of Vancouver the whole time, and people kept saying, can you come to our city? We have stuff we need to talk about. We want to eat quail's eggs. I was like, if you boil them, I'll come. So this is what we do.
We are in Toronto for Greasy Spoon number 40 with Chef Charlotte Langley and 14 other chefs that happen to be female here tonight. 8 entrepreneurs that also happen to be female in service out front. And why we keep saying that is, you don't say female lawyer, you don't say female CEO unless you're an asshole. 2 fantastic DJs, your boy Brian and the incredible Scratch Bastard. So it's a family affair, and we're here organizing people around critical food need and food insecurity in Toronto and in Vancouver to try and help out our community. And so far, so amazing. On top of that, we're raising critical funds for organizations that service women who are facing street entrenchment, homelessness, mental illness. And in Toronto, that organization is Sistering. To date, we've put out almost 2 million meals in Vancouver. Sistering does about 500 a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks for folks. So by these almost 300 people joining us over 2 days and 4 dinners, we're able to support a bunch of women there for 3 straight months, and we're stoked about it.
Folks get brown. Folks get brown in the sunshine. Yeah, yeah. Sunshine. Folks get down. Folks get down in the sunshine.
I thought we would have a great turnout. We'd initially budgeted for about 100 seats. We've had to do 150 a night, which means we're going to be back over and over and over again. What I love about events like this is it's the core mandate of what we do, which is people support what they co-create. So the more people you can have involved in doing this work, everybody's got a little bit of a load to carry, but not all of it, and we get shit done.
Just bees and things and flowers. Everybody loves the sunshine, yes they do.
So that's what we do. And God bless the light gods that day. If anybody shoots pictures, I was like just looking at going, damn, that sun, that's not After Effects, that's real. So we came and we did that. And all of last year, we focused on chefs that happen to be female to entrench that vernacular into our very, very toxic, masculine chef kitchens. And it made a lot of people really, really mad. They've gotten over it. They're going to be fine. So unintended consequences, when you're with the right people in the right place and you catalyze change, sometimes you just get this lightning bolt of beauty that happens. And you couldn't even imagine it. In a million years, you couldn't imagine something happening that does. So during the dinners, we have 3 speaker slots for each dinner. One happens at 5:30, one happens at 8. Speak, 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 speak. One of the women drops out the second night. I'm bummed because she's a hitter, and I know that she's going to get to people, and they're going to care about street-entrenched women. In her place is a brand-new employee by the name of Sally. This is her. She had just recently relocated from Victoria, British Columbia, and was new to Toronto and was very nervous. I said, I'll stand up there with you. You're going to be great. Don't worry about it. Didn't help. Made her more nervous. So she takes the microphone. She's shaking, and she delivers this talk. And I start to cry. And a whole bunch of other people do. And it's not a particularly convincing talk in words. It's her energy. She is so true to the work and cares so much that you can literally feel it. So I get verklempt. I take the mic. I'm like, I can't do this right now. We'll talk again in a second. Enjoy your BLT. And then this guy comes up to me, and he had donated the venue, which was a coffee roasters called Propeller Coffee, and it was stunning, as you saw. He wouldn't take any money. He was like, no, you take it for 2 nights. It's fine. He comes running up to me. He's like, that was crazy. I need to talk to her. I was like, well, usually if you say you need to talk to somebody, why are you talking to me? Go talk to her. He's like, I'm nervous. That energy was a lot for me. I was like, it was a lot for me. That's why I'm hiding back here. I don't want to talk to anybody. Leave me alone. So he goes to talk to her. And Losay was a refugee in India. And this is his family now and his beautiful children. And he also radiates that same energy. And he comes running up to me, and he's like, we know each other. I was like, what? He's like, yeah. I was like, cool, from coffee? He's like, no, from a refugee camp when I was a baby. I said, no. He said, yeah, that's Sally and Losay. They'd never spoken again until this moment. She was a ringer. He wasn't even supposed to come to dinner. And because I was crabby, he went to talk to her. There are 7 billion fucking people on the planet. What do you mean? I am not a religious man, but damn, I was close to God that day. We've decided, my friend Damon Storr over here, the former CEO of The Guardian, he loved this so much, he said, let's do the whole damn planet. I was like, okay, I'm down. So we're going to do 22 cities in America next year. We're going to do 9 in Canada. We're going to do 2 in Australia. And we would really like you to come. This is what it looks like. Okay, I know you're coming. So amongst all of this, I care deeply about homelessness. Now, I haven't done any of the background because a bunch of you were here, and you can find it on the internet. But for the last 3 years, I've spent a lot of time in research. The token program's amazing, but it just unlocked empathy that we've been talking about for 2 days. How do we accelerate that empathy? And so I've been working on a project called PAL, or Positive Access Link, for almost 4 years. And it's to take that same device that disconnects us and connect us. What does this look like to people when they see it? It looks overwhelming, is what it looks like. It looks like we can't do anything about it. That last good gunshot, there's a couple 100,000 people in Los Angeles living like this. Not a couple hundred, not a couple thousand, a couple 100,000. A large chunk of them are veterans. But I could tell you that, and you have no reference point aside from me. And that's not helpful if people want to change things. So I researched everybody. I went to all the government. I went to show me everything. And they did, and it didn't look good. So I got connected with a company. I was like, isn't data important right now? And isn't it easier to come by them? What if people who were living street and trench could have their own agency and have it back and input it so we could see it and actually make change and walk into governments and say, hey, Skid Row in this particular section, the population is too many, but now we know exactly what the population is because the population has given us that and what they need. This gentleman can be identified, not a swath of people that are taking an account on a clipboard in one night. We can get really specific and demystify what homelessness looks like. It's not the dude with the beard and the cigarette and the dog. It's families. It's veterans. It's people who've recently come out of the closet, 1 in 4. And we can get hyper specific because people want to be upwardly mobile. They want to work. They want to be seen. These are the words we believe in. Not the negativity, not strife, not anger, not those words. These are the words. Solutions, connectivity, opportunity, optimism, reality. Those words. But you can't do it. And why I love this thing that we've done without this. Saul talks about the network of networks. The Hatch network's here. Can I hear you if you're here? Oh my God, please do not take that as any sort of response that that's what this network's like. They're just intently listening right now. When we collide networks of people trying to do things really good, we understand that we can help, and where we can help, and we do it. If we could do that digitally all the time, it'd be amazing. This is part of my network that is grounded on a flight that was supposed to speak just before me. You might have met this gentleman. I promise to keep my shirt on. Just so I don't show you up, you know what I mean? You feel me? You might know this guy. He did a little painting for me that hangs proudly in our diner. And this is what our network does. We don't walk away from this thing and go, hey, that was great. I'll see you in 11 months, 3 weeks, and 6 days. We start texting each other all the time. I'm going to be in your city. I love what you do, and I encourage you to do that. I had to have a hard look at leadership and what I was going to do with my life, because exponential impact is something I genuinely care about. And there's a couple ways that you can be a leader, and I've been both. You can be this guy, which is terrible. Nobody wants to hang out with this guy or gal at all. And this usually comes from imposter syndrome on a side note. Look how great I am. No, you can't do that. That comes from fear. Or you can be this. I went to see a talk from this lady. Yo. There was 200 people. I sat third row with my mouth open. The person who was moderating the talk was so incredibly inappropriate, he asked her 3 times, even though she deflected beautifully, when she was going to run for president. And she was like, oh, that's lovely, and moved on. Like, the grace on this woman, this obnoxious dude who had paid for her to be there. And the 3rd time, she said, you know what? Actually, let me address that. I could run for president, and maybe I would even win. But I now can teach 1,000 me every single year. And that is so much more important. And I swear to God, I almost said hallelujah real loud. It was crazy to me, and it landed so hard that that's what that is. Leadership in service, not in ego. To do the right thing. So I have a little thing, and I promise you, Saul, I'm going to wrap this up. This is important to me. And last year we did this. Who was here last year? I'm going to see you outside and see how that went. But right now we're going to do it again. Young man, will you step up here with me? You knew I was going to do that. I teach a class at the University of Southern California, and I teach innovation in design and design thinking, and I teach it via computer. And last night, my class from all over America, they're at least 10 years in social work, and they do the work. They are the ones on the front lines dealing with the people who are mentally ill in the VA. This is an incredible gift. I would pay USC. Wait, this is being filmed? Don't tell USC. I would pay USC to do this job because it fills me full of so much joy and hope. Because these folks who are making less than 40K, a lot of them, show up. So last night I said, I do this thing at this talk, and I'm kind of nervous about it because everybody's really good. Would you get them to promise me something? They were like, yes, we would. So this is from them directly. I'm going to say something to you, and then I'm going to hand you the mic, and you're going to say it back to me. We're going to shake hands. This is a legally binding contract. Should you want to leave, you can't, but should that be the case, so I promise to leave the world a better place than I found it.
And I say the same thing? I promise to leave the world a better place than I found it.
I believe it. Stay here. So now, we are going to be the witnesses because you witnessed that. That's a contract. Everybody stand up. Turn to somebody you do not know and exchange those same words. Okay, when you're done, grab a seat. Now, as this goes, you are going to see each other again somewhere in the world. Damn, you might just be at a dinner of mine in 20 years. And you're going to look that person in the eye and go, how'd that go? How's it going? And the promise on the other side is, I'll help you if it's not going well. You have to be there for each other. I want to finish with this. Bad food is made without pride by cooks who have no pride and no love. Bad food is made by chefs who are indifferent or who are trying to be everything to everyone. Bad food is fake food. Food that shows fear and lack of confidence in people's ability to discern or to make decisions about their lives. When things get darkest, we must be our brightest. We must love our hardest. Thank you.